Hi, thanks for joining me. This is Revelation for September. Today is Tuesday, September 20th, and we're looking at 20th chapter of the book of the Revelation to John, and it's a doozy. So let's get started. First of all, what we're looking at here is we're in this scene of the end, the very end, the last final battle and what's happened. And so I feel like we've gone through a lot of processes with the whole concept of this apocalyptic literature, the end times, the Parousia. It is a lot of things have happened, and it's been sort of metered out, the 7 trumpets, and then we had the 3 woes and all these different things, and every 3.5 years, and things are and then we get to chapter 20 and it's like 1,000 years and 1,000 years, and sort of like, I was like, do we get lazy and we just don't want to write about all the stuff that happens after the 1,000 of years? I don't know. So this is what happens. An angel coming down from heaven, holding his hand the keys to the bottomless pit. Remember the pit that all the locusts come from with the stovepipe, and the beast also came from there? And so did the 7-headed dragon, devil, Satan. The key to the bottomless pit on a great chain. He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil, the dragon, devil, Satan, remember him? And bound him for 1,000 years and sealed it over so that he would deceive the nations no more. So takes the Satan, sticks him down in the pit, seals it up for 1,000 years. And then, if you read this before you watched this, you're surprised as I was. After that, he must be let out for a while. The devil will be held in the bottomless pit until such time that he should be eligible for parole, which is after 1,000 years, apparently. So you gotta let him out. So I looked into this. I was like, wait, what do you mean you gotta let him out? And what it said in my commentary, in the New Interpreter's Bible commentary, was that there's a yin and yang element to good and evil here. And I just almost feel like you get that. You look at our nation's politics. Whenever something swings really far to the left or right, there's going to be a course correction. The public are not going to go quietly into the night because of democracy. So you can see that kind of works with our political entities. If things go a little too loosey-goosey in the end of the 70s and everybody seems to be going and doing exactly what they want, then in the 80s they come down really hard and with social norms, or and get a course correction. But maybe a course corrects too far to the other side, and then this pendulum swings. So I like the pendulum personally to stay in the middle, but here we understand that we need a little bit of evil in order to know how good things are. So you gotta let him out. You gotta let Satan out after 1,000 years. But here's what happens. So I saw the thrones, and those seated on them were given authority to judge. So there's this big judgment of all those, all these people. They're dead people. First it's the martyrs, and then it's just regular people. While Satan is bound in the pit for that first 1,000 years, and before he lets out when he's on parole, the martyrs, those souls who had been beheaded for their testimony of Jesus, who did not take the mark of the beast, those people who were killed because they did not go along with what had happened, they become those who reign with Christ for 1,000 years. So during the time of Satan's sentence and imprisonment, those who are participating, and they're part of the first resurrection, that's what John says here, they are going to be reigning with Christ in heaven. Good for that. This is what these people who are suffering terribly, this is what they need to hear. They need to hear, you will be rewarded, you will be with Jesus. This is a good thing. The first resurrection, they reign for 1,000 years. Satan's in the prison for 1,000 years. Then, after 1,000 years, Satan is released and all hell breaks loose. Yeah, it's true. So when he's released, everything that is, or he, I shouldn't say he, I'm sorry. When Satan is released, everything that was planned to happen on the earth happens. This deceiving people and the nations, and then, and the four corners of the earth when it's round, but it's okay. So this deception goes further. The Satan character, the dragon devil Satan, creates this army, this vast army, and it's called, and he calls to him Gog and Magog. And you're going to read about Gog and Magog, and they're going to be like, who's that? So Gog and Magog are symbols of Israel's greatest enemies. They're just symbols of cities and people of Israel's greatest enemies. And everything that happens after the 1,000 years, before the next 1,000 years, happens very quickly compared to what we've seen in the previous 20 chapters in this book. All these, well, I shouldn't even count the first 3 chapters because they're just about the oracles to the churches. But all the action that's taken place thus far, it's really quick. There's 1,000 years where these wonderful martyrs are reigning with Christ, and the devil's in the pit, and everything is cool, I think. Then this huge army that Satan has put together, Gog and Magog, they get flash fired. They just put, like as if they all marched into a kiln at the same time. The fire destroys the great army. Zap. And it may have happened slower than that, but it doesn't describe that way. It's just a zap. That's it. And then they all get tossed into the lake of fire and sulfur. You don't want that. Where they will be forever tormented night and day. They're not going to take a break. The torment will happen whether it's light or dark. I'm sorry, it's not funny, I guess. So tormented night and day and forever in the lake of fire and sulfur. This judgment happens, though. First is the people are judged worthy. They've been beheaded for the witness of the gospel. They're the martyrs. They get a little higher status, so they get to reign with Jesus for 1,000 years initially. Then there's a second judgment, and it's the second resurrection. And these people are just the everyday people, anybody. And there's a book. There are several books, it says, but there's a main book. It's the book of life. And if your name's in the book of life, you got it. You get to go up. If it's not in the book of life, you guessed it, lake of fire. It didn't say the sulfur this time, so who knows. It's a lake of fire for you if your name is not written in the book. And these people that are coming to be judged are coming from all the abodes of the dead. From Hades, who runs some kind of dead show somewhere. From the sea, every domain of the dead, if you will, is represented here. And all these dead are brought before the seat of judgment, the holy throne of judgment. Those people who, both great and small, are standing before the throne to be judged, and they're looking at all the deeds of their life and looking and see if their name is in the book of life. And if it is, they get to go to their reward. If it's not, they are thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death. So it would be, you're already dead, so you're being judged, and then you go into the lake of fire. It's kind of maybe where we get some theology around final judgment, and it's not gonna, I kind of believe it happens exactly when you die, but I'm not sure. And I sort of go back to Jesus on it, like Matthew 25, but that's what it says here about lake of fire. That's where you go to second death, the death of the dead, if you will. 1,000 years sounds like a long time, but I think it was just some of the commentary says hyperbole. So it's the way that they would think of as just an incomprehensible amount of time for them. Perhaps it was, and for us it is incomprehensible amount of time. But since we have written history that goes back that far, because we had the tools for that, it seems different to us. World different perspective than what we know of today. This would have been comforting though to them, to know what's going to happen. This is, those of you who were martyred, There you go. 1,000 years with Jesus reigning. You're in the throne room the entire time. You're not going to miss a thing. And it's good. It's good. It's really good. And it's encouraging. I'm sure it was encouraging to them who were under persecution at the time. That the message of Jesus was so compelling that they would even be a part of that and reject what Rome had in store for them. They would not play the game, even for political gain. Not play both sides just to see, they could hedge their bets. But have a beautiful day.